Demonstrations have shifted from moments like this to scenes like this, as thousands of peaceful protesters, with crowds swelling at the weekend, populating cities across the United States. An energy that's now being trained on effecting change, starting with the removal of monuments to the slave-owning South, like the statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee in Richmond, Virginia.
I believe in a Virginia that studies its past in an honest way. I believe that when we learn more, we can do more. And I believe that when we learn more, when we take that honest look at our past, we must do more than just talk about the future. We must take action. So I am directing the Department of General Services to remove the statue of Robert E. Lee as soon as possible.
Protesters used ropes to topple a bronze of Confederate General William Carter Wickham in the same city this past weekend, while similar statues or roadways have or are being considered for removal or renaming in several states.
We have two pandemics in this country: COVID-19 and racism. One is 6 months old, the other 400 years old. And as the events of the last months and the last 2 weeks have made painfully clear, both are lethal, especially for Black and brown people. It is our responsibility to do everything we can to keep either from claiming more lives in this country, in this world. We need to show that Black and brown lives matter.
A sentiment that has crossed the Atlantic, with monuments to Winston Churchill vandalized in London. Or these demonstrators in Bristol, who tore down a statue to a 17th century slave trader and dumped it in the river. In Belgium, 30,000 people signed petitions to remove statues of colonial-era King Leopold II, whose troops decimated Congo in the late 1800s.
If the Congolese people didn't get enough rubber out of the trees, they had their hands cut off. There are presumably millions of people who died just so he could get that money from rubber that they used to make tires. I think if they remove street names of Nazi collaborators, this one should be removed for sure.
When I saw it, I was a bit surprised, but I didn't really know what the statue stands for. I thought it was just a normal statue. But now that I know who he is and what the statue actually represents, I think it's unfair.
All this as tensions between police and protesters eased in the United States, President Donald Trump ordering the withdrawal of the National Guard from Washington, D.C., with plans afoot in Houston, Texas, for a final memorial to George Floyd ahead of his funeral on Tuesday. Sherwin Bryce-Pearse, SABC News, New York.